We got Charles in Texas who thinks many atheists are wishy-washy, and who says he has a stronger explanation about where morality comes from. And if Colin Studio will work for me, here we go. Charles, how you doing?
Hello.
Where did morality come from?
Well, it evolved, and I think the thing that would help is to understand the mechanism by which it evolved, which seems to be something that a lot of people don't get exposed to. And so here's how it happened. According to my physical anthropology classes in college, and honestly, it's a little bit of he didn't frame it as morality evolving. He was just talking about how evolution worked. This is how I have interpreted based on the lessons in college class. But the definition of evolution is changing allele frequency from one generation to the next within a population. So the population is the unit that is evolving. Individuals don't evolve. Anything that the DNA allows the DNA to increase the number of occurrences of itself in the next generation is a benefit to that DNA. If a mutation causes an individual to be willing to sacrifice himself to save multiple other people within that population, that DNA will exist more in the next generation. And so that is where altruism comes from. It is more beneficial to a population if they have some ability for individuals to self-select, to sacrifice themselves for the better of the whole population. And so, when they say in the foxhole, somebody throws himself on a grenade, why would an atheist do that? Well, we all have an instinct to do that. It's calibrated differently with different people. We're a combination of, genetics plus how we've learned in our lifetime. But that's essentially how, we sacrifice for others. And we sacrifice more for people that are more similar to ourselves. So family members, the DNA is more similar to your DNA. And this is ultimately kind of where racism comes from, too, because every critter has to make a determination if another critter is one of them or is not one of them in order to determine how much they're willing to sacrifice to provide for that other individual. And different people are calibrated differently on that. But I don't know. Are you still hearing me?
Oh, we're still hearing
you.
you.
No, I'm hearing you. And I don't disagree that natural selection had certainly put pressure towards altruism, and that human beings being a social species, that's sort of, where that comes from. But I'm curious, where are we getting to the evolution of morality here? Like,
yeah.
Well, I maybe there's a terminology difference here, but I think generally there's consensus that a greater amount of altruism in a person is considered a greater morality. But the basis, the physical universe, you could say there is no basis for morality, but what we decide, hey, that's good, that's a person being good, that's a moral person.
Well,
tends to coincide.
There's definitely a point of diminishing returns. If somebody's perfectly altruistic, say if I had some moral revelation, decided to, as of today, I'm going to be perfectly altruistic, and I give away all my money, and any time that I have food, I give that to somebody else, and I don't consume anything for myself, and I'm just giving it all away, perfect altruism, I'm not going to last very long.
It's a good point.
Yeah, but that's fine. That still can help the population. So you're not the only one who's carrying your particular sequence of DNA.
No, I understand that, but what I'm just drawing attention to is if you said that generally people look at this and go, the more altruistic someone is, the more moral they are. I don't think so, because if somebody's perfectly altruistic and they just flame out in 2 weeks because they've done nothing to take care of themselves, because all they've done is take care of others, that's going to be a problem. And if like a lot of people did that, that's going to be a huge problem. Whereas if we were to sort of plot out if somebody is, generally altruistic, but while still taking care of themselves and taking care of their family and doing what they've got to, on a longer timeline, they could potentially do a lot more to positively impact the world.
And be more likely to pass on their genes. Yeah.
But that would, I would say, is the basis of where morality comes from.
Is what, this analysis
I'm
of how
not-
your actions affect
I'm
other
not saying
people?
I'm not saying that people need to completely self-sacrifice or they're immoral. I'm just saying that the basis of it is making basically appropriate decisions to benefit the population, putting that at higher than the self. Now, it does not help the population for individuals to ignore their own personal needs.
Right.
It benefits the population for each individual to take into account their own. The most immediate thing they can do is to make sure they're going to survive. But there are calculations where the population at large entering into the equation so that you can make a more informed decision about how it's going to help everybody. There's a point at which helping yourself personally starts to not help everybody. And this is why when we feel, hey, that was a good person doing a good thing, it's because we've evolved a sense that that person is benefiting the DNA survival and for expansion into having more occurrences of itself into the next generation.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I'm getting hung up here, but I don't think I'm coming with you on this. I think that I don't think morality is tied to survival, or like the proliferation of our species or making more humans.
I think the evolution of underneath all the layers of where our conscious selves start to say, yes, that's good and this is not good. At the bottom of it, at the seed, at the basis of all of it, I think is about the DNA propagating itself and being more successful.
I'm not sure I'm with you. What is your definition of morality? Just so we know we're talking about the same thing. If you were to describe, say you're talking to a 6-year-old and they ask you, what's morality? How would you describe that?
Well, I mean, I think morality is doing unto others as you would have done unto yourself. Generally, that's the golden rule at the basis of it. But
hang on, wait. What if somebody would prefer to be treated in a way that's different from how I would prefer to be treated?
Okay, so then treating others the way they would prefer to be treated. But see, the way that person came to want to be treated.
But what if somebody wants to be treated terribly? What if I run into some sort of masochist who wants me to do things to them that I don't think would be good? Or someone's what if someone has like some sort of mental disorder or is under the influence of drugs or something and is saying that they really, really want me to harm them? Would that then be moral?
Well, generally speaking, whatever the individuals want to have happen to them also evolved or is a product of some kind of damage, evolutionary damage or some kind of immediate brain damage or something that happened. So is it moral to, I would say it's greater, more moral to only do the things to that person that he wants done to him that are beneficial to society at whole. I mean, he may want, hey, it would be great for me if you could kill me and my family, but maybe it wouldn't be very moral to take him up on that. But if he just wants to get beaten daily and asks you to beat him daily, I think we reach a point at which we're kind of going to the point of absurdity. But the overall, the final analysis comes from whether or not you make the decision of what you're going to do. The moral decision is the one that benefits the overall population the most.
I'm not sure I'm with you still. I'm not sure we've nailed down what morality is because I kept sidetracking you. But all I'm trying to do is draw attention to that this is complex. I don't think that I don't think morality is about what's good for the species in an evolutionary sense. I think that morality is about making life as good as possible for those of us that exist. Basically, it's that whole well-being versus suffering analysis.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Kenneth.
Life as good as possible. That definition of good that you perceive as good evolved.
Well,
and it evolved to be based upon what is best for the DNA that makes you up.
I don't know if I'm with you on that.
Are you kind of going with a, sorry, Kenneth, are you going with like sort of like a Dawkins selfish gene kind of kind of point? Is that what you're getting at, Charles?
I haven't read his stuff on that, but I mean, the basic idea of the genes are selfish. I mean, yeah, I mean, they are. It is the DNA from the moment that the first thing started replicating, the first proto-virus, that whatever it was that was the first thing that started replicating, that there were more of them in the next generation than the last one, based upon if they had an advantageous set of instructions. And that's still going on today. So today, what we perceive as wanting or thinking is good for ourselves, or how we even perceive the universe, though even the fact that people can deceive themselves, was evolved to have just the right amount that seemed to be so far the most successful way for the advancement of this DNA as it competes with all the other DNAs that have gone on their own ways over the past.
Well, you're not going to get any argument from us about whether or not, the way we are is, ultimately a byproduct of natural processes. I was getting a chat from Jmike, and I want to point something out, and I want to encourage you to call back in when he's on the line, because I don't want to try to make his argument, for him. But it sounds very much like you're equating what is with what ought to be, or suggesting that because something is natural, that it is therefore good. Like there's a value judgment being smuggled in based on an assessment of what is natural, okay, or what is considered beneficial from an evolutionary standpoint, which would be two different things. So I think that, yeah, again, I love what Jmike sent, but you'd be better off talking to him, because he'd have fun with this. But I mean, I agree with some of the things you're saying, but I think that it's just probably a lot more complex.
Well, yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said too, Charles, and I think that you and Dawkins were right that we are little more than vehicles for our genes, but I don't know how you get to morality from that.
Yeah.
Well, this may be. I think that in the basic way I could say is that there is no objective morality, right? So the only thing that we could do in the universe doesn't care. It's just rocks. It's just particles. Evolution is just water flowing downhill. It's the same thing as everything else, and we flow towards a state where we're desiring of things, because desiring those things is what benefits the DNA that is inside us.
Would you agree that once we arrive at those places where we, if we based on all of what's in our DNA and our social constructs and conditioning, once we arrive at what we want, that how we do want to live, how we don't want to live, that we can make objective assessments about how we can get there?
Yes. I mean, okay. But not that we will be correct. I mean, we can only try. So the more, the better our dialogue, and the more engaged we are, and the more creative and thoughtful in our coming up with things to talk about and how we approach it, we can get ever closer to the best, a better future for ourselves. I mean, to me, that's the ultimate purpose, is to, we got to define our purpose. And I think that's right in alignment with what a good definition of what our purpose ought to be.
I don't know. I think we can be right and wrong when we're talking about making moral decisions. If I'm like saying, I want my, if I don't have kids, but if I did have kids and I wanted them to be healthier people, I could say a moral decision would be to, feed them vegetables from time to time, make sure their nutrition is all right. And maybe a morally bad decision would be to, keep them locked up in a shed and not let them go to school. Like, I think we're safe saying that some things are objectively right and wrong with respect to our goals.
Yeah, but again, I mean, your sense of wanting to protect your children evolved, and you want to protect them more than other people because they share more DNA, and they're kind of charged to you based on how we evolved in order to place them in your charge because they were born to you and all this kind of stuff. But it's not that if, by example, killing your kids for some cosmic reason was going to lead to the preservation of a million other kids, then the DNA would tell you that the moral thing to do is likely to do what seems completely wrong. And I don't know. It's simply that at the end goal, I think, because there's no ultimate moral standard in the universe, other than what we can decide is going to be. But I think even what we decide is going to be is derived largely, what makes sense to us is derived based on what the DNA has determined is going to make sense to people, that because it wants to expand and be more numerous in the future.
Well, I don't think DNA
Yes.
wants anything.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Yeah.
No. I mean, I use the term in a colloquial sense.
Sure.
Here, what we use to say "want" is to mean that whatever is successful is therefore, and you can almost only do it in hindsight, right? This worked, and so therefore, it's going to be more likely to be the strategy that is chosen in the next cycle.
Got it.
Sure.
Well, hey, listen. Again, I would encourage you to call back in when Jmike is hosting again. He seems super interested in your call, but we got to move on. Have a great weekend. Thanks for calling in.